Good evening. We're coming to you tonight with a special report. A major story is developing in Europe, and it has huge implications for big tech, for free speech online, and for the power of international law. The headline tonight: French law enforcement has raided the Paris headquarters of Elon Musk's social media platform X. We're still getting details, but here's what we can confirm right now. All right, let's start with the raid itself. This was a significant, coordinated action, and we now know it involves several different law enforcement agencies. So here's what we know happened today, Tuesday, February 3rd in Paris. This wasn't a small operation. It was a major search of X's headquarters, carried out jointly by the Paris Prosecutors cybercrime unit, the French National Police, and even the European Union's own law enforcement agency, Europol. And here's where the story takes a really unusual turn. The Paris Prosecutor's Office actually announced the raid on X itself, then, in the very same breath, declared it would stop publishing on the network immediately. So they're essentially boycotting the same company they're investigating. So the big question is, what led to such a dramatic police action? Well, it looks like this raid is the climax of a legal probe that's been quietly getting bigger and bigger for more than a year. Let's just track how this whole thing has grown. It all started back in January of last year with some pretty technical issues, complaints about biased algorithms and fraudulent data extraction, but by November it had expanded in a big way. Investigators started looking at X's AI chatbot Grok over some very serious allegations of Holocaust denial. And now, this month, the investigation has escalated yet again, leading right to the raid we saw today in Paris. And this table really lays out just how serious the allegations have become. What began as a concern over system manipulation has just ballooned into this multi-pronged criminal investigation. We're talking about authorities looking into the distribution of child abuse images, AI-generated deepfakes, and even the denial of crimes against humanity. I mean, these are some of the most severe charges that can be brought against a platform. And now this investigation is reaching the very top of the company's leadership. French authorities have taken the step of officially summoning both the current and the former heads of the platform to answer questions. The summons targets two key people: Elon Musk, who the prosecutors are calling the de facto manager of X, and Linda Yaccarino, who was the company's official CEO during the time in question before she resigned last July. So French authorities clearly see both of them as central to this case. But here's the legal wrinkle. The summonses are officially called voluntary, but our sources in the French legal system say they're actually mandatory. The real challenge, though, is going to be enforcement. It's incredibly difficult to compel testimony from people who live outside of France. For its part, X has responded, and they're responding forcefully. They're framing this whole thing not as a legal issue, but as a political attack. The Paris Prosecutor's Office says their goal is straightforward. They just want to make sure that X, which operates in France, follows French law. In their eyes, it's a simple matter of legal compliance. But X sees it in a completely different light. In a news statement, the company claims this investigation is, and I'm quoting here, distorting French law to serve a political agenda and ultimately restrict free speech. They've promised to fight what they're calling political censorship. Now, it's really important to understand that this raid in Paris is not happening in a vacuum. It is the latest and maybe the loudest flashpoint in a much wider push by European governments to rein in big tech. And at the very same time as this raid in France, we're seeing a similar move brewing in Spain. The Prime Minister there has just announced a new legislative effort to tame what he called the digital Wild West. Those are the exact words from Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez, a really powerful statement that shows just how impatient European leaders are getting with the state of online platforms. And in Spain, these aren't just words. The government is preparing some very concrete actions. They're looking at a possible ban on social media for anyone under 16, with mandatory age verification to back it up. And, just like in France, they want to hold company executives legally responsible for illegal content. They're even planning to make manipulating algorithms a specific crime. So all of this, the raid in Paris, the new laws proposed in Madrid, it brings us to the central question. The regulatory walls are closing in on social media. This long simmering conflict between protecting free speech and guaranteeing user safety is no longer a theoretical debate. It's happening right now, in courtrooms and in parliaments. The question isn't if these two ideals can coexist anymore. The question is how. We'll continue to follow this story. That's all for this special report.